I need to say this up front. I did not wake up that morning planning to blow up my life. I wasn't sitting there plotting how to lose my husband, get myself kicked out of my own home, and be quietly cut off by an entire family in less than 24 hours. In my head, I was just venting, pushing back, trying to wake him up a little. I wanted him to feel insecure. I wanted him to realize what he was risking. I wanted him to worry about losing me. What I did not want, or at least what I keep telling myself I didn't want, was for him to look me in the eyes, invite his brother over, and then calmly show me the door while they both stood there and watched. But that's exactly what happened. Because I said one sentence I thought was just a line in an argument. Honestly, your brother is the only attractive one in your family. And he believed me. Before we get into it, don't forget to like and subscribe. And hit hype to boost this episode. Drop a comment below with your city or country. I'm always curious where viewers are joining from. It didn't begin with some huge betrayal. There was no double life, no secret messages, no scandal. It started with him asking for a compliment. That's it. A grown man asking his wife if she still liked how he looked. It was a Tuesday evening. I'd just come home from work, still irritated from a long commute and an annoying client. My makeup was smudged, my feet hurt, and I was halfway through changing into leggings when he came into the bedroom. "Hey," he said, hovering in the doorway. "Can I ask you something without you getting annoyed?" That sentence alone was already annoying. When someone starts like that, you already feel guilty for a mood you haven't even had yet. I sighed. "What?" He shifted his weight, hands in his pockets like a teenager. "Do you still find me attractive?" I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was so out of nowhere. "What kind of question is that?" I asked, tugging my jeans off and throwing them on the chair. He didn't smile. "Just answer." "Obviously," I said, not even looking at him. "You're my husband." "That's not an answer," he said quietly. "That's a default." That irritated me. I was tired, hungry, and he'd chosen that exact moment, when I was trying to peel my workday off my body, to have some deep insecurity talk. "Why are you asking me this right now?" I snapped. "What happened?" He hesitated. "You just don't say anything anymore. About how I look, or if you like what I'm wearing, or if I look good for something. You used to." I rolled my eyes. "Oh, so now I'm responsible for your self-esteem?" He winced a little at that, but kept going. "I've been trying. I started going to the gym again. I got new clothes. I've been shaving in the mornings. You haven't said a word." "And?" I said, crossing my arms. "Do you want a sticker?" I admit it. I was cruel on purpose. I wanted him to back off. I didn't feel like coddling him. He stared at me for a second. "You call me needy when I try to talk about this." "Because you are," I shot back. "You're fishing. You want me to sit here and clap for every t-shirt you buy. I have other things to worry about." That's what lit the fuse. He took a deep breath, like he was trying not to say something he'd regret. "It's not about t-shirts, Mia." "I know," I said, throwing my work top on the bed. "It's about you wanting me to constantly reassure you like a little boy." His jaw clenched. "You act so distant lately." "And you act boring," I snapped. "So here we are." That landed. I saw it in his face. "What does that even mean?" he asked. "That I'm boring?" "It means," I said, "that you used to be interesting. You used to have energy. You used to surprise me. Now all you do is sit on the couch after work and scroll or watch the same shows. And when I don't shower you with attention, you start whining that I never compliment you." "I'm not whining," he said slowly. "I'm telling you I feel like you don't even look at me anymore." "So go look at yourself," I muttered. "There's a mirror in the bathroom." Childish? Yes. But I was angry, and once I'm angry, I aim to hurt. That's just how I am. I like to pretend I'm just being honest, but the truth is I know exactly where the weak spots are, and I press them. He leaned against the door frame, studying me. "Do you even find me attractive?" This time his voice wasn't defensive, it was flat, tired, and instead of responding like a normal person, instead of saying, "Yes, but I'm frustrated with you," or "I still love you, but I'm upset," I felt something cold and sharp rise in my chest. I wanted him to feel what I felt: overlooked, annoyed, taken for granted. So I decided to throw the biggest dart I had. "Do you even find me attractive?" You know when time slows down and you can almost see yourself at a crossroads? Part of me knew what I should say. Something kind, something reassuring. But my pride wanted a reaction. So I shrugged, looked him straight in the eye and said, almost casually, "Honestly, your brother is the only attractive one in your family." The silence after that was thick. It was like the air changed temperature. He didn't yell, he didn't cry, he didn't even look surprised. He just froze. For a moment, he did nothing at all. Then his shoulders dropped a little, like someone had quietly removed the last support beam inside him. "What?" he finally asked. His voice was calm, but it didn't sound like him. "You heard me," I said, doubling down, because I refused to be the one who backed up first. "I'm not saying you're awful or anything. I'm just saying if we're ranking people in your family, he's the only one who's actually, you know, really attractive." I tried to say it like a joke. Light, playful. I even forced a small laugh. It didn't land, not even close. He didn't roll his eyes or tell me to stop. He didn't ask me if I was kidding again. He just watched me with this expression I'd never seen on his face before, like I was a stranger who'd just said something deeply disappointing. "You think that's funny?" he asked. "Relax," I said. "You're taking it too seriously." He studied me for a few long seconds. Then he did something I did not expect. He straightened, stepped away from the door frame, and said in a voice so calm it almost sounded rehearsed, "Okay, let's test that." I frowned. What is that supposed to mean? He didn't answer. He just walked out of the bedroom, down the hallway, into the kitchen. I pulled on my t-shirt and followed him, already irritated that he'd just left in the middle of a fight. I found him at the counter picking up his phone. "Marcus, what are you doing?" I demanded. He unlocked his screen, scrolled, and tapped a contact. "Don't," I said, a cold knot forming in my stomach. "Seriously, what are you doing?" He held the phone to his ear. "You said my brother is the only attractive one," he said calmly, "so let's bring him in." My heart started pounding. I heard the call connect. A familiar, cheerful voice answered. "Hey man, what's up?" His brother, Leo, said. Marcus kept his eyes on mine as he spoke. "Can you come over?" "Tonight?" Leo asked. "Yeah, I guess. Everything okay?" "There's something you need to hear," Marcus said. "It won't take long. Come when you can." Leo laughed. "You sound serious. Should I be worried?" "Just come," Marcus replied. "You'll understand when you get here." He hung up before Leo could ask more questions. "Are you out of your mind?" I snapped the second he put his phone down. "Why would you involve him in this?" "You involved him," Marcus said, setting the phone on the counter. "You're the one who brought him into our bedroom." "I didn't bring him into anything," I said. "I made one comment." "About how he is the only attractive one in my family," Marcus said. "About how you basically see the rest of us as, what, background." "You're twisting it," I said quickly, suddenly very aware of how harsh it sounded said back to me. I was upset. I didn't mean it literally. He opened a drawer and took out cutlery. I watched, stunned, as he started setting the table. "Marcus," I said, "stop. This is childish. You're going to drag him into our personal argument because you got offended by a joke." He didn't look at me. "You weren't joking." "I was," I insisted. "It was sarcasm. You're taking it way too far." He placed plates on the table. "You remember what you said?" I groaned. "Yes, obviously." "Good," he said, turning to face me finally. "Because when he gets here, I want you to repeat it." My chest tightened. "I'm not doing that." "Then I'll do it for you," he replied. "Word for word." The calm in his voice scared me more than any shouting ever had. If you've never sat in your own kitchen, waiting for the person you used as a weapon in an argument to walk through the door, I don't recommend it. I paced. I tried to reason with him. I tried to argue. I tried to apologize without actually admitting I'd been cruel. You're overreacting, I said. People say things they don't mean during fights. He wiped down the table like he was preparing for a guest. Some people do. Some people don't say that. It was one sentence, I said. You're acting like I did something unforgivable. He paused at that, looking at me with this quiet, exhausted sort of sadness. You did. I ignored the sting of that and kept pushing. You forgot our anniversary last year. You forgot to call my mom on her birthday. You forgot to pick me up from the train station once, and I had to walk home in the rain. Did I pack your bags and throw you out over those? He shrugged. You were upset. You had a right to be. I apologized and tried to do better. And I'm apologizing, I said quickly. Right now. I told you I didn't mean it. I told you I was angry. Why isn't that enough? He folded the dish towel carefully. Because an apology doesn't erase the fact that you thought it, shaped it into words, and delivered it straight into my face. That is a very specific sentence, Mia. It didn't just appear on its own. You're so dramatic, I muttered. It's not that deep. He gave me a tired smile. We'll let Leo be the judge of that. I almost lost it then. So what, you're planning to sit him down and announce that your wife thinks he's the only attractive one in the family? Do you think that's going to make me look bad or you look ridiculous? Both, he said. Which is fitting because that's what this whole thing is. Ridiculous and ugly. He went to order takeout, as if this was a normal visit. I considered leaving. I stood by the door, keys in hand, imagining myself walking out, disappearing for a few hours, forcing him to cancel. But the thought of Leo arriving, hearing I'd run away, and drawing his own conclusions somehow felt even worse. So I stayed. I sat on the couch with my arms wrapped around myself, watching the clock, listening for the elevator in the hallway. Every minute that passed tightened the knot in my stomach. The doorbell rang exactly 40 minutes later. Leo is exactly the kind of man people say looks like he stepped off a magazine cover. Tall, tidy haircut, nice smile, easy confidence. Pretty much everything Marcus has been compared against since childhood. In other words, the worst possible person to say that sentence about. I heard his cheerful voice through the door before it even opened. Smells good in here already, he joked as Marcus let him in. You two bribing me with food? Something like that, Marcus said. Leo walked into the living room and smiled at me like nothing was wrong. Hey, Mia, long time. I forced my face into something that wasn't total panic. Hi, Leo. He looked between us. You both look like you just got out of a very long meeting. Everything okay? Yeah, I said too quickly. We're fine, just tired. Marcus nodded toward the table. Let's eat first, then we'll talk. Leo frowned. That sounds ominous. He sat down anyway because of course he did. He trusted us. That stings more to think about now than anything else. Dinner was torture. Leo made small talk as usual. Work, some funny story about a client, some joke about how he needed a holiday. Marcus answered politely, even laughed in the right places, but there was this stiffness under everything. I barely spoke. I pushed food around my plate and tried not to throw up. Twice Leo asked, You sure everything's okay? Twice Marcus said, We'll get to it. Finally, when the plates were mostly empty, Marcus put his fork down and folded his hands. Leo, he said, there's a reason I asked you to come. Leo's smile faded. Yeah, I got that impression. What's going on? Marcus looked at me. Mia has something she wants to tell you. My heart jumped into my throat. No, I don't, I said automatically. Yes, he replied evenly. You do. Leo looked at me, brow furrowed. Tell me what? I tried to smile. It felt wrong on my face. Nothing. He's being dramatic. We had a small argument, that's all. Small, Marcus repeated, one eyebrow lifting. You call that small? Marcus, I hissed under my breath. Don't. He turned to Leo, completely ignoring me. She said something about you, about us. I think you should hear it. Marcus, I said louder now. Stop. Leo held up a hand. Okay, this is getting weird. Just tell me what's going on. Marcus leaned back in his chair, eyes still on his brother. His voice didn't rise. He didn't sound angry. He sounded done. Mia says you're the only attractive one in our family. The words hit the table like a dropped glass. Leo blinked. What? I felt my face burn. That's not what I... That is exactly what you said, Marcus cut in. Word for word. Leo looked between us slowly, like he was trying to figure out if this was some kind of bizarre joke. You said that? He asked me directly. I swallowed. It was taken out of context. What context makes that okay? He asked, genuinely baffled. I scrambled. We were arguing, and he was asking if I still found him attractive, and I made a stupid comment. It came out wrong. Wrong how? Marcus asked. You looked me in the eyes and said, honestly, your brother is the only attractive one in your family. There was nothing unclear about it. Leo sat back, his expression shifting from confusion to a kind of uncomfortable distance. Mia. The way he said my name made me want to disappear. I was angry, I said, my voice shaking. He kept pushing, and I said something I shouldn't have said. That's all. Something? Marcus repeated quietly. You didn't just say it once. You went on. You talked about how he dresses better, carries himself better, takes care of himself more. You listed it like a report. Leo's eyes widened. You compared us like that. To his face. That's enough, I snapped at Marcus, stung that he was dragging every detail into the light. You've made your point. No, he said, still calm. I haven't. Because I don't think you actually understand what you did. Leo put his hands up. I have a wife, he said quickly. You know that, right? I'm not. This is not something I want to be in the middle of. This isn't about you doing anything wrong, Marcus said. You didn't. You've never done anything to damage my marriage. She did. I hated how he said my marriage like it was something already separate from me. Leo turned to me again. Did you really say that? That I'm the only attractive one? Like, out of your husband's whole family? I scrambled for a softer version. I said you were the most polished one, the most, I don't know, presentable. That is not what you said, Marcus replied. You chose the word attractive. Several times. Leo rubbed his face. This is really bad, Mia. I know, I snapped. You don't have to lecture me. Well, somebody has to, he shot back. His tone was sharper now. Do you realize how that sounds? To your husband, to me, to my wife, if she ever heard that? She won't, I said quickly. She already knows I'm here, he answered. If she asks what this was about, what am I supposed to say? That my brother invited me over so his wife could announce I'm the only one she finds attractive in their family. That's when the shame really hit. Not during the argument, not even when Marcus made the call. But when I pictured Leo going home and explaining this to his wife, the awkwardness, the suspicion, the damage. I was trying to make a point, I said weakly, about how Marcus takes me for granted, about how he doesn't try anymore. I didn't mean I wanted you or anything. That's not how it sounded, Marcus said. It sounded like if you had a choice, you'd pick him instead. That the only reason you're with me is because he wasn't an option. Leo stared at the table. This is making me really uncomfortable. Join the club, Marcus murmured. I don't know what I expected Leo to do. Maybe laugh it off. Maybe blame Marcus for overreacting. Maybe tell him he was being sensitive. Instead, he exhaled slowly, then looked straight at me. You know, I always thought you were good for him, Leo said. You two seem balanced. I liked seeing him happy with you. Me too, Marcus said quietly. Leo shook his head. But this, Telling him that, using me as some kind of measuring stick, that's rough. I didn't. Yes, you did, he cut in firmly. You didn't shout at him about the dishes. You didn't complain about his socks on the floor. You went straight for his biggest insecurity. You know how much he's been compared to me his whole life. You know how our parents are. And you still decided to hit him with that. The worst part was, he was right. I knew all of this. I'd heard all the stories about their childhood. The constant, "Why can't you be more like your brother?" comments, the report cards compared on the kitchen table. The way teachers, relatives, even neighbors always talked about Leo like some standard and Marcus like a project. I'd comforted Marcus after family dinners, where his mother spent an hour bragging about Leo's promotions and barely asked Marcus how he was doing. I knew exactly how much that lifelong comparison hurt him, and I used it anyway. I crossed my arms, defensive. I was hurt too. He acts like I'm some piece of furniture. He never notices anything. He forgot to compliment my new haircut for a week. Did anyone ask how that made me feel? Leo looked at Marcus. What did you do? I asked if she still found me attractive, Marcus said, and listed a few things I've been trying to improve. That's it. That's what started this? Leo asked me. My mouth went dry. There were other things. He's been emotionally distant and... That's not what you said, Marcus replied. You went straight from "you're needy" to "you're boring" to "your brother is the only attractive one." There was no middle step where we had a calm talk about feelings. Leo let out a low breath. Honestly, Mia, that's not okay. Something in me snapped. Why is everyone acting like I set the place on fire? I burst out. It was a sentence. He's acting like I betrayed him for real. It was words. Marcus stood up then, slowly, deliberately. Words are all we have, he said. We don't get to peek inside each other's heads. We only know what the other person thinks by what they choose to say. Tonight, I learned what you reach for when you want to hurt me. He walked out of the dining area. I thought he was going to get some air, maybe go splash water on his face. He came back with my suitcase. He set it down near the hallway. I stared at it, then at him. What are you doing? Leo looked alarmed. Marcus, I'm done, Marcus said. I've tried to keep this marriage safe. I've tried to talk. I've tried to fix things. But tonight you made something very clear to me. I laughed, but it sounded wrong. You're not serious. You're not actually going to pack my things over a fight. Over a sentence, he corrected. Over a sentence you crafted to hurt me in the most precise way possible. Marcus, be reasonable, I said, my voice rising. You can't throw me out of my own home. It's not your home, he said quietly. Not anymore. That stung because I knew it was technically true. The lease was in his name. We'd always said it didn't matter because we were married. Apparently it mattered now. I looked to Leo, expecting him to say something supportive, something like, "Come on, man, this is too much." Instead, he said, "Are you sure this is what you want to do?" Marcus nodded. Yes. So that's it, I demanded, my voice cracking. You're both just going to gang up on me, throw me out together like I'm some problem to solve. Leo's gaze hardened. This isn't about ganging up on you. This is about boundaries. You crossed one so far tonight I can't even see where the line used to be. That's dramatic, I said, even though I knew he was right. It's not dramatic, Marcus replied. It's basic respect. I would never look you in the eye and tell you your sister is the only attractive one in your family. I would never tell you I wish I had married her. I would never invite her over and use her as a stick to measure you with. That's different, I protested. No, Marcus said, it isn't. He walked past me into the bedroom and started opening drawers. I followed him. Stop it, I said, grabbing his arm. Stop. You're being rash. You're angry. He gently removed my hand. I'm not angry, he said. That's the problem. If I were angry, maybe I'd believe this was just a moment. But I'm not. I'm clear. He folded my clothes and placed them in the suitcase. I know it sounds strange, but the way he packed, actually made it worse. He wasn't throwing things. He wasn't shoving my life into a bag like trash. He was careful, methodical, thoughtful, even. It meant he wasn't trying to hurt me just to hurt me. He was doing what he genuinely believed was necessary. "Marcus, we can go to counseling," I said. "We can talk this through with someone. I'll apologize to your brother. I'll apologize to your parents. You always jump to 'we can fix it later,'" he said without looking up. "You never stop yourself before you cross the line. You just count on the cleanup after." "That's not fair," I shot back, stung. He zipped the suitcase and stood, finally looking me in the eyes. "You're right," he said. "It's not fair. Nothing about tonight was fair to me." 5 minutes later, we were standing by the front door. Leo had moved to the side, arms crossed, clearly uncomfortable but not intervening. Marcus placed the suitcase by my feet. "You don't have to do this," I said, shaking. "We can calm down and talk tomorrow. We don't have to decide anything right now." "I already decided," he said. "You decided too, you just didn't realize it." "How?" I demanded. "When you opened your mouth and told me my own brother was the only attractive one in my family," he said. "When you decided that was an acceptable way to speak to your husband." Tears blurred my vision. "Where am I supposed to go?" He swallowed. For a second, I saw a flicker of the man I married, the one who used to worry about me being cold if I forgot a jacket. Then it was gone. "You're the one who said you'd rather be somewhere else," he replied. "Maybe go there." "That's not what I said," I cried. "You said you only find him attractive," he reminded me. "You said that to my face. If that's how you see me, I'm not keeping you here." He opened the door. Leo looked at me then. There was no anger in his face at that moment, just a tired, sad disappointment. "Respect goes both ways," he said quietly. "You can't break it like that and expect nothing to happen." I choked out, "So you're okay with this? With your brother throwing his wife out?" Leo shook his head. "I'm not okay with any of this, but I understand it. If my wife told me that kind of thing about you, I'd question everything too." That sentence hurt more than anything, because I knew he was right. If the roles were reversed, I would not be noble about it. I would not stay with someone who told me they only found my sibling attractive. I grabbed the handle of my suitcase, still hoping this was some performance, some scare tactic that would end with him pulling me into a hug and saying, "Okay, lesson learned." He didn't. "Goodbye, Mia," Marcus said. The door stayed open until I stepped into the hallway. Then it closed. Then it locked. Just like that. I'm writing this from my friend Karina's sofa. The guest blanket smells like fabric softener and old perfume. There's a suitcase beside me with my whole life packed into it in neat rectangles. Karina opened the door that night, took one look at me standing there with swollen eyes and a suitcase, and didn't say what happened. She said, "What did you do?" Because that's the reputation I have, apparently. When I told her the story the next morning over coffee, she didn't gasp with outrage at Marcus. She didn't call him cold or heartless. She stared at me across the mug and said, "You really said that out loud?" I crossed my arms. Why is everyone acting like I joined some secret club? It was a sentence in an argument. People say worse things. She raised an eyebrow. People say different things. I don't know anyone who would go straight for, "Your brother is the only attractive one." That's a pretty precise hit. I was upset, I said. He was being clingy, constantly asking if I still liked how he looks. It felt so needy. "Okay," she said. "So tell me this. If you had taken a breath and chosen a kinder sentence, what could you have said instead?" I hated that question. I looked away. "I don't know. Something like, 'I wish you tried more,' or 'I miss when you dressed up for dates.'" "Right," she said. "You could have said those, but you didn't. You chose the sentence that would hurt the most." "I wanted him to feel something," I said. "He's so calm all the time, like nothing touches him." "And he finally felt something," she replied, "and now you're on my sofa." I rolled my eyes. "Thanks for the support," she sighed. "I am supporting you. I let you in. I'm feeding you, but I'm not going to lie and act like what you said was some tiny slip. You pretty much told your husband he's not attractive to you and his brother is the only one who is. That goes beyond normal couple arguing. I hate that the more people I tell the story to, the worse I look. I tried reaching out to Marcus. Of course I did. He hasn't answered a single message. The first day I sent him a stream of texts. Apologies, explanations, excuses. I didn't mean it, I was just hurt. I love you, not Leo. Please talk to me. We can fix this. He didn't reply. By evening, my messages stopped delivering. He had blocked me. I emailed him from my work address. The message bounced back with an automatic response. Delivery failed. I tried calling from Karina's phone. Straight to voicemail. I went to the apartment once, thinking I'd catch him in person. My key didn't work. Someone had already changed the lock. I knocked. Hard, for 10 minutes. Nothing. A neighbor down the hall peeked out. "Are you Mia?" she whispered. "Yes," I said, relief flooding me. "Is he home? Can you tell him?" "He already told us," she said gently. "He said you might come by, that things ended badly, that we should call building security if you tried to get in." Ended. Like we were some contract. I didn't stay long enough for security to actually arrive. I walked back out into the rain, feeling like a stranger at my own doorstep. I called Leo to apologize, thinking maybe if I fixed it with him, he'd talk to Marcus. His wife answered. "We'd prefer if you stopped contacting us," she said. No greeting, no softness. Just that. "I wanted to tell Leo I'm sorry," I said quickly. "I know I put him in an awkward position." "He was more than awkward," she said. "He was furious and hurt and quite frankly disgusted that you would use him like that to attack his brother." "I wasn't attacking him," I protested. "You were," she replied firmly. "You just did it through Marcus. Please respect our boundaries and leave our family alone." Then she hung up. I tried his sister next. She texted back. "You made him doubt his worth in his own marriage. I'm not getting in the middle of this. Don't call again. Marcus's best friend." "Look, I care about both of you," he said. "But when he told me what you said to him, I told him straight. If my partner said that to me, I'd be done too." It's funny. I thought people would say Marcus overreacted, that they'd tell him to calm down, to not throw away a whole marriage over just words. Instead, they keep calling those words exactly what they are, a deliberate hit. I keep wanting someone, anyone, to tell me I'm not a monster. They don't. They tell me I made a choice. Karina eventually bullied me into seeing a therapist. "You keep circling the same story," she said, "but you're not asking yourself the obvious thing. Why did you want to hit him that hard?" So I went. I sat there on a grey chair, tissues on the table, hands twisting in my lap, and told the whole story again. The therapist, calm, neutral, too observant, listened without interrupting. When I finished, she asked one question. "When you said those words," she said, "what response were you hoping for?" "I wanted him to finally react," I said, "to stop being so calm. I wanted him to show me that he cared if I stayed or not." "So you created a threat," she said. "You told him you preferred his brother. Why not just say, 'I need more attention from you'?" "Because that doesn't do anything," I snapped. "We've had those talks." He nods, says he'll try, and then nothing changes. "So you decided to escalate," she summarized, "to use the most powerful sentence you could think of." "I wanted him to fight for me," I admitted, hating how childish it sounded aloud. "I wanted him to argue that it wasn't true, to list all the reasons he's better for me than Leo." "And instead," she said gently, "he believed you." That landed like a weight in my chest, because that's the core of it. He didn't argue. He didn't say, "That's absurd, of course you don't really think that." He didn't try to prove me wrong. He decided that if his wife said she only found his brother attractive, the most self-respecting thing he could do was step aside and let me live with that. "Do you think he overreacted?" she asked. I opened my mouth to say yes. I closed it again. I think it was fast, I said instead, like one evening and I'm out. Was it really just one evening? She asked. Or was that sentence the last piece after a pattern of similar fights? I didn't answer, because I know the truth. This wasn't the first time I'd gone for the sharpest words. It was just the most precise. Here's what I have learned, sitting here on a friend's sofa, replaying that moment again and again. You can't untell someone they are not attractive to you. You can't uncompare them to their own sibling. You can apologize, explain, cry, blame stress, blame hormones, blame childhood, blame whatever you want. But you can't erase the fact that at some point you chose that sentence over all the others. I keep wanting to write this in a way that makes me look more sympathetic. I want to focus on the nights he forgot things I cared about, the times he stayed late at work and didn't text, the way he sometimes dismissed my suggestions. All of that is true. He's not perfect. There were real issues in our marriage. But none of those things forced my mouth to say what it said. He forgot to make a restaurant reservation once. I told him his brother is the only attractive one in the family. He sighed during an argument. I decided to stab right into the oldest wound he had. Those two things are not equal. And the more I retell it, the more obvious that becomes. Karina said something the other night that I haven't been able to shake. You didn't just tell him what you think about his looks, she said. You told him what you think about his place in his own family. That's what made it unforgivable. I didn't just say, I'm not attracted to you lately. I said, out of all of you, he is the only one worth looking at. That's not frustration, that's contempt. And once someone sees that in your eyes, it's very hard for them to pretend it was never there. Sometimes I try to flip it. If Marcus had told me, your sister is the only attractive one in your family, would I forgive him? If he had invited her over, sat us both down, and told her I was distant, boring, and basically invisible to him compared to her, what would I do? Would I sit there, nod, and say, it was just words, he was upset? No. I would pack my own bags, I would leave, I would tell everyone I knew that he'd crossed a line. So why am I surprised he did the same? Maybe that's the part that really bothers me. Not that he left, but that he had enough self-respect to enforce a boundary that I never thought he would. I thought I could say the harsh thing, cry a little, apologize, and we'd reset. Instead, he quietly closed the door. When people ask me now what happened, the ones who don't know him, who don't know Leo, I could lie. I could say, we grew apart, or he changed, or some vague phrase that makes him the problem. But every time I try those lines in my head, they sound dishonest. The truth is simple and ugly. He asked if I still found him attractive. I decided to make him hurt. I told him his brother was the only one who looked good to me. He believed me, called his brother, and put my own words on the table in front of both of us. Then he and that same brother carried my suitcase to the door and told me, calmly and clearly, that respect has limits. The humiliation isn't that they ganged up on me. The humiliation is realizing they were right. I used his brother as a weapon. He used my own sentence as a mirror. In that mirror, I don't like what I see. I keep wanting to say, I didn't mean it, but the more I think about it, the less that matters. Because I meant it enough to say it. I meant it enough to repeat it. I meant it enough to argue for it when he challenged me. Maybe it wasn't some deep, permanent belief. Maybe it was a momentary impulse. But that moment was powerful enough to end my marriage. And that's the part I have to live with now. Not that I lost him to his brother, not that I chose the wrong one, but that I showed him, in one sentence, exactly how low I was willing to go to win an argument. He decided that was lower than he wanted to live, so he let go. And for the first time in a long time, I'm starting to understand that maybe, just maybe, that was the only healthy decision anyone made in this whole story.